this custom-tailored deep dive, curated just for you.
Yeah, glad you're here.
If you're tuning in right now, you already know your way around a mixing desk.
Right.
You know your dance music history, and you're looking for a shortcut to deeply dissect a very specific musical genesis.
Without wading through hours of basic exposition, I mean, nobody has time for that.
Exactly. You want the core engineering and the cultural DNA of a movement, and that is precisely our mission today.
We are getting right into the weeds.
We really are. We're going to deconstruct the absolute foundation of Afro House music, and we're pulling our insights directly from a really concentrated set of notes.
Highly concentrated.
Yeah, it's titled AfroHouse Story E01Roots.md. Specifically, we're looking at the foundational materials for Episode 1, which carries a 2026 copyright by 786Muzik, LLC.
It's a brief source material, but it operates like a tightly coiled schematic for an entire sonic landscape.
Right, like a technical blueprint.
Yeah, it wastes absolutely no time on preamble. It drops us immediately into the core architecture of the sound.
Straight to the point.
Right. It outlines a fundamental synthesis, points to the primary architect who stabilized it, isolates the exact sonic building blocks, and then
frames the final result.
Exactly. Frames it not just as a new club sound, but as an entirely distinct communicative system.
Okay, let's unpack this. The notes immediately present us with what functions as the genre's foundational equation.
The ground zero.
Right. It says South African roots house plus African rhythms.
Right. Which sounds simple on paper.
But looking at that critically, bringing those two elements together introduces a massive friction point.
A huge one.
I mean, you have the standard house framework, which is inherently rigid. It relies on a quantized four-on-the-floor grid designed to lock a club full of people into a single, unbreakable groove.
The grid is everything in standard house.
It is. And then the text tells us we are integrating South African roots and African rhythms, which, they operate on a completely different rhythmic philosophy.
What's fascinating here is how the text frames that integration.
Right.
It doesn't describe a simple overlay.
Like just pasting a loop over a kick drum?
Yeah, exactly. You're not just looping a quantized percussion sample over a 909 kick. The fusion of South African roots house with these organic African rhythms represents a fundamental clash of sonic philosophies.
It's a collision.
Right. You are taking the mechanical, rigid skeleton of electronic dance music.
A structure built on absolute predictability.
Yes, predictability. And you're forcing it to carry the weight of rhythms that are inherently unquantized, elastic, and deeply organic.
The tension between the grid and the groove.
That's where the energy of this entire genre lives. The house element provides the relentless forward momentum, but the African rhythms pull against that grid.
They stretch it.
They do, creating this incredible syncopated elasticity on the dance floor.
And that elasticity completely changes the physical response of the listener. I mean, you aren't just locking into a robotic, hypnotic march anymore.
No, your body has to react differently.
Yeah. Right. It's like the rigid steel frame of the house beat is suddenly overgrown with living, breathing, organic instrumentation.
Like vines on a trellis.
I love that analogy, yes. It forces the body to move in multiple directions at once. You're responding to the strict 44 time signature while simultaneously swaying to the syncopated undertow of the roots elements.
Taking the digital and making it intensely human.
Intensely physically human. But executing that kind of synthesis on a production level is incredibly risky.
Oh, absolutely.
If you don't balance the quantization with the organic elasticity perfectly, you don't get a new genre.
You get a train wreck.
A muddy, unlistenable train wreck, exactly.
Which brings us directly to the figure the source text identifies as the architect who solved that exact mixing challenge.
Black coffee.
Right. The document explicitly points at black coffee, and it uses a very specific, deliberate verb to describe his role.
It says he pioneered it.
Pioneered, yes.
Ugh.
In the context of electronic music production, pioneering doesn't just mean you were the first to have the idea.
Ideas are cheap.
Right. It means you were the first to solve the technical and acoustic problems required to make the idea actually function in a club environment.
You have to figure out the EQ, the spatial mixing, the frequency separation.
It's a massive engineering puzzle.
It is. You have to figure out how to keep the acoustic resonance of South African roots instrumentation from completely swallowing the low-end drive of the house beat.
And the text provides the specific proof of concept for this.
It points directly to the track, We Dance Again.
We Dance Again is cited here as the definitive blueprint.
An anthem.
Yeah, an anthem like that does more than just fill dance floors. For producers and listeners trying to understand a new sonic landscape, an anthem establishes the rules of engagement.
It's the reference track.
Exactly. It demonstrates exactly where to place these disparate elements in the stereo field. It shows how hard you can push the syncopation before you lose the primary groove.
The gold standard.
It acts as the gold standard that proves this impossible equation, rigid electronic structure plus elastic organic rhythm can actually hold together.
So what does this all mean?
For the evolution of the genre.
Yeah, if We Dance Again is the blueprint, it means every producer who follows is essentially building on the acoustic foundation that Black Coffee engineered in that specific track.
Creating a shared language.
Yes, a shared language for how to balance the tension between the digital and the organic. And the source text gets incredibly granular about what tools are required to build that tension.
This is my favorite part.
Here's where it gets really interesting. The notes hand us the 3 microscopic sonic building blocks of this music.
Log drums, chants, and polyrhythms.
Log drums, chants, and polyrhythms. Isolating those 3 elements reveals the entire acoustic character of the genre.
Let's examine the first building block, the log drum.
Go.
In traditional electronic music production, your low-end foundation is almost always synthesized.
Right, like a clean, sweeping sub-bass.
Or a sharp digital 909 kick. Those synthesized sounds are designed to hit with absolute surgical precision.
Very clean.
But by specifying the log drum as the foundational element, the text highlights a radical shift in how the low end operates in Afro House.
Because a log drum brings an entirely different acoustic property to the mix.
It's physical.
Yeah, it isn't just a frequency. It has physical resonance, it has decay, it has the woody, earthy imperfection of a physical instrument.
You could almost feel the wood in the club.
Exactly. When you drop a log drum into the sub-frequencies of a club track, it changes the entire center of gravity.
It pulls it down.
Instead of the bass line feeling like this clean, invisible force pushing you upward, the log drum pulls the track downward into the soil.
Anchoring it in reality.
It anchors the music in a heavy, physical reality.
And that physical grounding is essential because of what happens in the higher frequencies.
Because of the polyrhythms.
Right. If you have a highly complex syncopated rhythm section operating the mid and high registers, you need an incredibly heavy, undisputed anchor at the bottom to keep the track from flying apart.
The log drum provides that dense acoustic mass.
It does. And resting directly above that dense low end, the text identifies the second crucial element, chants.
Which operates completely differently from a standard dance music vocal.
Oh, entirely differently.
Right. I mean, in a traditional house track, a vocal is usually a top-line melody. It sits on top of the mix, it delivers a narrative, it has verses and a chorus.
It demands your intellectual attention.
Exactly. It actively demands the listener's attention. But a chant serves an entirely different function.
It's cyclical.
It's cyclical, it is textural. Rather than sitting on top of the track telling a story, the chant weaves itself directly into the rhythmic fabric of the song.
Stripping the human voice of its narrative function.
Yes, and repurposing it as a mesmerizing, percussive instrument.
The repetitive nature of the chant serves a vital psychological function on the dance floor, too.
How so?
Because it loops continuously. It bypasses the analytical part of the brain and taps directly into something much more primal and communal.
Like a trance.
It creates a hypnotic, trance-like state. It provides the human breath and the organic spirit that counterbalances the relentless mechanical drive of the house grid.
So you have the immense woody gravity of the log drum at the bottom.
Right.
And this looping, ethereal human texture sitting in the mid-range.
But the real friction, the element that truly defines the genre's energy, comes from the third ingredient listed in our source material.
Polyrhythms.
Polyrhythms. This is where the elasticity we talked about earlier is generated.
You aren't just dealing with a simple backbeat.
Not at all. You are dealing with multiple overlapping time signatures playing simultaneously against the quantized house foundation.
You have the kick drum demanding a strict 44 march.
While the shakers, the congas, and the snare hits are operating in conflicting triplet patterns.
Or shifting time signatures that constantly pull the listener's ear in different directions.
This raises an important question.
What's that?
How do you stack a resonant, heavy log drum, a hypnotic, cyclical human chant, and an intensely complex web of polyrhythms over a rigid electronic framework without creating a completely muddy, unlistenable mix?
It sounds like a disaster on paper.
On paper, that combination of elements represents a nightmare of competing frequencies and rhythmic collisions.
It's a total mess.
So why does it work? The brilliance of the Afro House synthesis, the reason black coffee's pioneering work was necessary, is the concept of acoustic ecology.
Right, acoustic ecology. The elements survive because they are ruthlessly carved out to occupy entirely separate spaces.
They each have their own lane.
Exactly. The log drum owns the sub-bass frequencies, operating slow and heavy.
Deep and grounded.
The polyrhythms live in the crisp, high-end frequencies, moving with frantic, intricate speed.
Excessive light.
And the chants occupy the warm mid-range, providing the connective tissue between the earth below and the kinetic energy above.
They don't fight for dominance.
Because they each have a dedicated lane in the mix. They don't step on each other's toes.
They interlock perfectly.
Yeah.
The complexity of the polyrhythms is only palatable on a dance floor because the log drum is so relentlessly simple and grounding.
Right. You need the simple to balance the complex.
And the rigidness of the house beat is only tolerable because the human chants inject so much warmth and soul into the mid-range.
It is a perfectly balanced sonic ecosystem.
Every element relies on the others to maintain the structural integrity of the track.
And when you understand how fragile and perfectly balanced that ecosystem has to be, the final assertion in our source document suddenly carries incredible weight.
It's a huge claim.
It really is. The text ends with a massive, bold claim, complete with an exclamation point. It states that this specific combination of elements creates an African musical language.
A language, not just a genre.
Exactly. It doesn't just call it a new aesthetic or a fresh club sound. It elevates the entire movement to the status of a language.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the distinction between a genre and a language is a profound paradigm shift.
It changes everything about how you listen.
For you, the listener, understanding this text requires looking at how we consume music. A genre is simply an organizational tool.
It tells you what to expect.
Right. It dictates the tempo, the expected instruments, and the general mood. It is a way to categorize a product for consumption. A listener engages with a genre passively.
You let the sound wash over you.
You let it dictate your physical movement, yeah.
But a language requires active engagement.
You have to decode it.
Yes, a language is an active tool for conveying complex meaning, history, and emotion. It possesses syntax, vocabulary, and grammar.
And if we apply that framework to the source material, the sonic building blocks we just dissected take on entirely new roles.
The log drums and the specific tones of the chants aren't just stylistic choices anymore.
They are the vocabulary.
They are the nouns and verbs of the track.
And the polyrhythms act as the syntax. The specific way those complex rhythms overlap and interact dictates how the vocabulary is delivered and interpreted.
So what's the grammar?
The underlying South African roots house structure provides the grammar, the reliable rules of engagement that allow the listener to parse the information being transmitted.
That makes perfect sense.
When the text calls this an African musical language, it implies that producers are using these specific sonic tools to write complex rhythmic sentences.
This completely changes the dynamic of the dance floor.
It's no longer just a club.
Right. If AfroHouse is a language, then the club is no longer just a space for escapism or physical release. It becomes a space of profound cultural communication.
A space for dialogue.
When you're listening to those interlocking polyrhythms and feeling the resonance of the log drum, you aren't just receiving a beat.
You're being spoken to.
You are engaging in a dialogue rooted in ancestral African rhythmic traditions, translated through the modern globalized grammar of electronic house music.
It demands that the listener become an active participant in the exchange.
You have to do the work.
You have to decode the syncopation. You have to understand the emotional weight of the chant. The source text is arguing that this music was engineered from the earth up, not just to make people dance,
but to transmit identity.
Yes, to transmit the depth and complexity of a specific cultural identity through sound. It is an incredibly bold assertion that forces us to reevaluate the intellectual weight of electronic dance music.
It is a brilliant way to look at production.
It really is.
Let's do a quick distillation of the territory we've covered today based on these notes.
We started with the foundation.
We started with the foundational synthesis, injecting the unquantized elastic energy of African rhythms into the rigid quantized grid of South African roots house.
The friction point.
Yes. Then we examine the pioneering engineering required to make that fusion work, looking at black coffee and the definitive blueprint of We Dance Again.
We then placed the three primary acoustic elements under the microscope.
The log drums, the chants, and the polyrhythms.
We analyzed how the deep, woody resonance of the log drums the hypnotic textural loops of the human chants, and the intricate syncopated friction of the polyrhythms all interlock,
creating a balanced sonic ecosystem rather than acoustic mud. And finally, we unpack the text's ultimate claim, that this perfectly balanced ecosystem transcends the concept of a genre and operates as a fully formed African musical language,
demanding active interpretation and cultural engagement from the listener.
Understanding these mechanics completely rewrites how you experience a track. You are no longer just listening to the groove. You are hearing the tension, the frequency carving, and the cultural syntax all operating simultaneously.
You are hearing the underlying architecture of the sound.
Before we wrap up this deep dive, we always want to leave you with a thread to pull on your own.
Building strictly on the conceptual framework presented in this text, here's a final thought to mull over.
Lay it on us.
If the specific combination of log drums, chants, and polyrhythms successfully forms a distinct, communicative African musical language with its own vocabulary and syntax.
What else is out there?
Exactly. What other subgenres of electronic music are actually secret rhythmic languages that we simply haven't learned how to translate yet?
Oh, that's fascinating.
If we approach other intensely specific club sounds with this exact same analytical framework, listening for the grammar and the syntax rather than just the drop,
what hidden cultural conversations might we suddenly be able to hear operating beneath the grid?
it changes everything about how we listen.
That is a phenomenal lens to apply the next time you are analyzing a new track or standing on a dance floor. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the roots of Afro House.
It's been a great analysis.
We hope this gave you the dense, high-level synthesis you were looking for. Keep analyzing the architecture of the sounds you love, keep decoding those rhythmic languages, and we will catch you on the next deep dive.